Hello everyone. My name is Cole Crable and I am a remote sensing data scientist working as a contractor to NASA's Land Processes Distributed Active Archive Center, or LPDAC. For my portion of the workshop, I will show you some of the ecologically relevant data that is archived and distributed by the LPDAC and a tool that we have developed that makes it easier to access the data for your ecological research or application. So as I mentioned, I work at the LPDAC. We are located out in Sioux Falls, South Dakota within the USGS Aero Center. The LPDAC is one of the NASA EOSDIS DAACs, focusing specifically on NASA's land processes related remote sensing data holdings. The LPDAC consists of scientists, system and software engineers, and science data and communication specialists, among others. So down here in the lower right is the LPDAC mission, and specifically my job focuses on advancing the access, understanding, and use of our data for diverse groups such as the Ecology user community, which I hope to do today. So by now you may be wondering what data the LPDAC archives and distributes. Here are some of our biggest LPDAC data collections. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, we have probably our most widely known and used products coming from the Terra and Aqua Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer, or MODIS, instruments. Also, we have recently started distributing NASA's SMPP Visible Infrared Imaging Radiometer Suite, or AppEEARS, land products, which are similar to MODIS. In the top right, we have Terra Advanced Spaceborne Thermal Emission and Reflection Radiometer, or ASTER data. In the middle, we have two very new and very exciting missions, both of which are venture-class missions attached to the International Space Station. The first is the Ecosystem Spaceborne Thermal Radiometer Experiment on the Space Station, or EcoStress, which is a multispectral thermal radiometer that provides radiance to LST to ET at 70-meter resolution. And the second is the Global Ecosystem Dynamics Investigation, or GEDI, which is a full waveform LiDAR sampling mission. The LPDAC archives and distributes the GEDI L1B full waveforms in Level 2 derived canopy height and vertical structure metrics. Finally, we have more measures and community products that are products produced by NASA-funded PIs and community-submitted products. The amount of ecologically relevant data available provides some incredible opportunities for you all to do groundbreaking research and novel applications of the data, but it can also be overwhelming and challenging to work with not only the amount of different data sets available, but also the total volume of the data, making it feel like you are drowning in a sea of data. Many of you are probably all too familiar with the 80-20 paradigm of data science, which states that you will spend 80% of your time collecting, processing, and formatting your data, which cuts into the time that would be better spent analyzing and applying your outputs. This is why we created AppEEARS, or the application for extracting and exploring analysis-ready samples. AppEEARS is an easy-to-use web application for accessing, processing, and visualizing geospatial data products that addresses data challenges by allowing users to request analysis-ready data from multiple sources in an easy-to-use request form. AppEEARS provides spatial, temporal, and band subsetting of your desired datasets. Spatially, users can upload specific point coordinates for their research locations or for entire areas of interest by uploading a shapefile or GeoJSON, or by simply drawing a polygon in our map interface. Next, users select their time period of interest. For band or layer subsetting, the AppEEARS sample page allows users to search for their desired products and then only select the layers that they are interested in. AppEEARS point requests are delivered as CSV files containing the requested analysis-ready data, and for area requests you can choose to reproject the data to a common output projection or leave it in its native projection, and we also allow for netcdf4 or geotiff output file formats. Once your request is complete, before you even download your results, you can use the AppEEARS view pages to interactively visualize the harmonized output data. Included in the visualizations are breakdowns of the associated quality information for your data. Another major motivation for AppEEARS is to make data quality more visible and usable, so we always provide quality data with the output and break down the quality values into more easily digestible information. All AppEEARS requests also include ISO-compliant metadata, as well as links to the source data used to compile your request. We take interoperability, usability, and traceability very seriously. Ultimately, the power of spatiotemporal and band subsetting means that AppEARS significantly reduces at-archive data volumes and reduces the 80% of time that researchers spend on data collection and processing. Okay, so now you may be wondering what data are available in AppEARS. Currently, we have NASA VIIRS and Terra and Aqua Modus land products, including products such as surface reflectance, land surface temperature and emissivity, vegetation indices, LAI and FPAR, land cover, and fire products. We have 3 different digital elevation model products, including NASA DEM, NASA's Shuttle Radar Topography Mission or SRTM version 3, and the ASTER Global Digital Elevation Model or GDEM version 3. From the USGS, we have a weekly smooth NDVI and CBOP monthly ET product. From the Socioeconomic Data and Application Center or CDAC, we have the United Nations Adjusted Gridded Population of the World or GPW version 4, and MODIS snow cover products from the National Snow and Ice Data Center. Also from the NSIDC, we have the Soil Moisture Active Passive or SMAP soil moisture products available. We have also recently added a number of new data products both internally and from other federal archives. From the USGS, we have released the Landsat Analysis Ready Data Surface Reflectance Collection, which is available over the conterminous US, Alaska, and Hawaii. We have added all of the EcoStress products, including Radiance, LST, ET, Water Use Efficiency, and Evaporative Stress Index products, and are also working on adding a geostationary land surface temperature product. From the Oak Ridge National Laboratory DAAC, we have added DAMET, which Jess mentioned earlier, provides gridded estimates of daily weather parameters for North America, including things like temperature and precipitation. In the future, we will continue to add new VIIRS products as they become available, as well as MODIS version 6.1. And then we also plan to add JEDI version 2 LiDAR data into AppEARS. In terms of new functionality, we have recently started advertising the AppEARS API, and we have a multitude of different resources for getting started with the API in R and Python. So for the second half of my presentation, I'm going to walk through a couple of use cases to show you examples of how AppEARS can be leveraged to enhance your ecology-based research or application. The goal of going through use cases is to show you how to connect your ecology or biodiversity-related data with remote sensing data-derived environmental descriptors to do things like model species richness and behaviors. Each use case also includes a handout with instructions for how to go through the step-by-step process of submitting the AppEARS request linked to the use case. In the interest of time, I will talk over the use case and provide links to download the step-by-step instructions for you to work through on your own time. For the first use case, I will show an example for how you could incorporate AppEARS area sampler into your research. Here we will combine species abundance data with remote sensing data-derived environmental descriptors using AppEARS to predict breeding bird species richness in Ontario, Canada. This use case comes from a study titled Exploring the Relative Importance of Satellite-Derived Descriptors of Production, Topography, and Land Cover for Predicting Breeding Bird Species Richness over Ontario, Canada. This study investigated the predictive power of remote sensing-derived environmental descriptors of land cover and productivity to predict species richness of breeding birds for the province of Ontario, Canada, split into 10 by 10 kilometer grid cells to align with the Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas units. The importance of this study was to map current patterns of species richness and environmental factors in order to better understand relationship and impacts of future changes on their populations. The study took place from roughly 2000 to 2005. The authors accomplished their goals by deriving environmental descriptors from remote sensing data and species richness counts from the OBBA to analyze the predictive power on species richness using a decision tree approach. The study ultimately found that variance in distributions of species richness were well predicted by environmental descriptors, especially land cover and vegetation productivity. The authors state that their results indicate that remotely sensed environmental descriptors can provide an effective tool for predicting bird species richness at regional scales. So today we will see how we can use the AppEEARS area sampler to extract data that can be used to generate remote sensing derived environmental descriptors for predicting bird species richness without even needing to download data and not requiring remote sensing software. Here's a quick breakdown of the datasets that we will be using for this use case, which are either the same or similar datasets used in the example study to derive similar environmental descriptors as the study. So we have monthly 1000 meter NDVI, which we will use to derive minimum level of perennial cover and the degree of vegetation seasonality. Next, we have MODIS net primary production, which is an annual product at 500 meter resolution, used to easily calculate total annual productivity. Next, we are using the combined MODIS land cover type, or LCT product, which is an annual product at 500 meter resolution, to calculate environmental descriptors including dominant land cover class, land cover dominance, and richness of land cover classes. Lastly, we will order the digital elevation model from SRTM, which is a static circa 2000 dataset at 30 meter resolution in order to calculate the topographic coefficient of variation for each 10 by 10 kilometer OBBA grid cell. Here we can see the AppEEARS request parameters. For the spatial subset, we will use just one of the 10 by 10 kilometer Ontario breeding bird atlas grid cells used in the study for the same years as the OBBA bird count for the layers aforementioned. Here we will set our output file format to GeoTIFF and reproject all of the data into Geographic Coordinate Reference System. Since we weren't able to do the workshop in person, and in the interest of time, I have included a link here to a Word document that I've created with step-by-step instructions for how to navigate through AppEEARS, submit a request, view the results, download the summary statistics, and generate environmental descriptors in Excel. You will begin by submitting a request where you will define a region of interest from a shapefile for the specific OBBA tile we are interested in, setting a time period of interest, and navigating the AppEEARS product search to find the products and layers you are interested in. From there, for area samples, you will need to select your desired output file type and a common output projection. The request should be completed in just a few minutes. Once the request is complete, you can visualize the results in the AppEEARS interface by looking at things like stacked bar chart time series for categorical variables such as land cover, and box plot time series for continuous variables such as NDVI. AppEEARS also returns decoded quality information, which will help you make informed decisions on what data to include in your analysis. From there, the instructions will show you how to download the summary statistics provided with every AppEEARS request, and how to quickly generate some environmental descriptors, including things like the dominant land cover class, its dominance and land cover richness, total annual productivity, and perennial vegetation cover. The second use case shows how to submit a point sample request and comes from Snapshot Wisconsin, which is a citizen science project hosted by the Wisconsin DNR and that has had collaborations with NASA to do some analysis on deer behavior and counts. So here we plan to combine white-tailed deer frequency and behavior data with environmental metrics such as land surface temperature, snow cover, and vegetation greenness to develop a model that predicts the likelihood of deer exhibiting certain behaviors on any given day. This use case takes place across the U.S. state of Wisconsin. The reason why the Wisconsin DNR set up Snapshot Wisconsin was to assess the number of deer and their behavior throughout the state in order to aid in wildlife management decisions. The program started in 2010, and to date over 1,700 volunteers have set up and continue to maintain over 2,100 trail cameras across the state that have collected over 42 million images. The images are hosted on a website where citizen scientists can classify them by identifying species and also noting specific behaviors such as feeding. The NASA partnership comes in because the researchers are interested in combining this information with satellite data from MODIS in order to see what impacts the environmental conditions have on deer frequency and behavior. So here we aim to combine species abundance data with remote sensing data-derived environmental descriptors in order to answer the question, how can AppEEARS be used to generate remote sensing-derived environmental descriptors for predicting species richness and behavior for point locations? The goal of this exercise is to access remotely sensed data that can be used to derive environmental descriptors for use in species richness studies without ever needing to download the source data from the remote sensing datasets, nor needing to open remote sensing software. Before we dive into the process, here is some information on the datasets that we will be using for this exercise. First, we have the daily 500-meter resolution N-bar surface reflectance product, which we will be using the red and NIR bands from to generate daily NDVI. Second, we have daily LST from MODIS, which could be used to link to deer behavior for things like are deer more active on hot days or on cool days. Lastly, we will be ordering snow cover data from NSIDC, which will give us an indicator on the daily amount of snow cover on the ground for our trail campsites. So here we have the lat-long locations for some of the trail cams that we will upload into AppEEARS to define our spatial region of interest. We will order data for 2015 and request the layers that I just described. And again, for this use case, I've converted the AppEEARS walkthrough into a step-by-step instructions guide that you can go through on your own pace and on your own time. Here is the link to download that Word document. You can see that the submission page looks very similar to an area sample, but there are some different time series plots, including a layer comparison tab and a categorical overview tab on the visualization page to check out when you walk through the instructions. The instructions will show you how to do some basic quality filtering in Excel. However, if you are more interested in doing some simple quality filtering in R, I've shared a basic R script for importing AppEEARS point outputs into R and doing some quality filtering, calculating things like NDVI and environmental descriptors and visualization. Again, in the interest of time, check out the script at the link provided and work your way through the process on your own time. There's one thing that I did want to plug before you all leave today, and that is the e-learning pages available on the LPDAC website. In particular, if you are interested in using AppEEARS and also enjoy Python and/or R, which we didn't focus on too much here, be sure to check out our tutorials which can help bring you to the next level in terms of visualizing, quality filtering, and getting the most out of your remote sensing data outputs from AppEEARS. I also provided a link here for the Getting Started with the AppEEARS API tutorials for those of you who are looking for additional resources on the functionality of the AppEEARS API and how it can be used in your research workflows. Thank you all for tuning in, and feel free to reach out and contact me if you have any questions. Please drop us a line and leave any feedback on AppEEARS that you may have. Whether it is new features or data sets that you would like to see added, we are always looking for user feedback. Also, be sure to sign up to the LPDAC listserv. Once we release some of these new features and data sets, you'll be the first to know if you're on that list.